Okay. You guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we want to talk about HTML forms today. HTML forms. And what is the HTML form? There are forms all over the internet. So let's take a look at what a form is. Let me go here and let's do a search for HTML forms. All right. So here's an example of a form that you might, you might see. So when we talk about forms, right? HTML forms are things like this, registration forms, login forms, all different forms that you use to basically submit information or request information. All right. So with this form example, it's asking you for name, your sex, your gender, your eye color, check all that apply. This is some kind of maybe like a sports information. Your height, your weight, and you describe your athletic ability, and you click this button here. Here's another form. So there, so many of them. Here's another form here. This is like a pizza store, like you find online. You put in your name. You select the kind of topping you like. You have all this. These are called radio buttons. Radio like listening to the radio. This is called a radio button. So radio buttons here on the form. Radio buttons allow you to choose one option. It's kind of like when you do a multiple choice quiz. You're going to see 4 options or 5, mostly 4 options for multiple choice. You can only select one. So here it says your topping, supreme, vegetarian, Hawaiian. You select one of these options. Kind of pizza sauce you want, you can drop down this tomato here. Maybe there are a few options there. Then it says extras. Now extras, these boxes here are called checkboxes. So these buttons here are radio buttons. These buttons here are checkboxes. Now with checkboxes, you can select multiple options, like extra cheese, gluten-free base, and all that stuff. And then here in this delivery instructions, maybe you say, I don't know, here's my phone number, call me, or come to the yard, come to the porch, whatever it is your instructions are for delivery. And then you click the button here, send my order. Okay, so let me ask you guys a question here. I want to see if you guys are getting this. Benson?
Yeah.
So when you fill out this form online and you hit send my order, so what happens to the information in the form? Where does it go?
I'm assuming it gets stored somewhere.
Say it again?
I'm assuming it gets stored somewhere.
Yeah, it gets stored somewhere. Somewhere like where? In outer space? In the cloud?
Like a database?
Like a data. What's a database?
Don't know too much about it. Besides that,
Okay, Yeah, go ahead.
Something with SQL. That's all I know about
What's
databases.
SQL?
It's a database programming language.
Huh? Do you know SQL?
No, I know the name of it, but that's about it.
All right. So something about databases anyway. All right, Brian Tran. What's this database that Benson is talking about? When you hit send my order, it goes to a database.
So there's SQL, there's also Mongo, another language, and then databases. I mean, there's people like make databases and like different structures, but I think the most common one is like a spreadsheet basically. So you have like a column for like the name and a column for pizza topping and pizza sauce, and you send the data and it fills it out. But you have to like you have to like send like a request to like change it or something to edit it or add on.
Okay, so let's take a look at what a database might look like. Just a simple example here. So this is our form here, right? It's asking for your name, the topping. So in the database, I think you're right. The database kind of looks like a spreadsheet, maybe a bit more complicated, but just keep it simple. It's like a spreadsheet. So in that spreadsheet, you have several, like everywhere you see, like to the left-hand side here, you see numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all that. Across the top, you see the columns. So the numbers tell you about rows. When I say right here, rows, that's going down, right? Left side numbers. So that's each row is numbered, all right? 1 all the way down. And then across the top, those are columns. Across the top, those are columns. So in the database, every database will have rows and columns. Now, if this was your database for your pizza store, then your database would have, will collect information like right here. It will say maybe first name. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me increase the size here.
I can see it.
All right. So, and then let me just make this a little bit, put a color there so you guys can, so it's more clear. All right. So rows and columns. So you have first name, you might say last name. Usually if it's online, you're going to have your email address there. You probably will have your phone, obviously, because they need to be able to contact you, right? Then you're going to say topping. You can add some more info here. Now you're going to say the pizza sauce. UCE. Then you're going to say optional extras and comments, something like that. I mean, you can have a lot more information, but just keep it simple. Comments or deliver instructions, something like that. All right, so your database will kind of look like this, right? So first name, so somebody comes here and says, okay, I'm Brian Tran, I want to order from here. So when you hit send my order, then your name is going to go into that database as Brian, for example. Your email is blah, blah, blah at gmail.com. All right, then your phone number is 111-222-3344, something like that. And then you say the topping you want is
Pineapples?
supreme.
No, pineapples.
Where's pineapples here? Well, come on, man, give me a break. I don't have time for all that. So that's your, okay. What are your sauce here? You want what? Tomatoes? Yeah, just
tomatoes.
say TL. Extra. Is there an E in tomatoes? Is it just S? I don't know. Extras. What are the extras? Like what? Extras are cheese. Extra cheese. Okay, cheese. And then you say, I don't know. Call me. Something like that. Call me when you get to my apartment. All right. So this is the first person that's placing their order. When the next person is going to place their order, so say we have somebody here. We have Hassan. Same thing. Hassan puts his information there, puts the email, puts the phone, the topping. The next person comes and says, I'm Jane. Jane puts her information there, and all that stuff. Then Marie puts everybody puts their information there. All right. Oh, well, Marie has 1 R, but let's say this imaginary Marie has 2 R's. So all your information goes to a database. The people that own the website or that own this pizza shop have access to the database. You don't. All you do is you click send my order. Sometimes you might also go to somebody's email. It depends on how it is set up, but generally it's going to go to a database, right? And that database can be searched. They have all kinds of ways of searching the database to say, well, how many orders did we receive today? How many orders did we receive from, let's say they had a zip code here, for example. Let's say there was zip code. You have to have your zip code in there. 0211, or let's say your zip code is, 3211, 32112, 4435, something, blah, blah, blah. Well, they might want to look at your database to say, well, how many orders did we get from zip code 32221? There are a lot of things you can do with your database. Maybe they want to send you a kind of a coupon, right? They look at the database and say, well, everyone who ordered in the last 1 week, we have their email addresses here, right? We're going to send them, emails, asking them to, if you buy, extra, or you buy a large or small or medium-sized pizza within the next 24 hours, we're going to give you, buy one, get one free, things like that. So your database can do a lot of stuff, can help you run that business. Here is the form that, most of you have probably used. Say you want to create a new Gmail account. Let's say I click here, create an account, right? Here is a form. We looked at one form here, and here's another kind of a form, right? In this kind of a form, asking your first name, last name, username, password, confirm your password, right? A few more buttons here, right? Depends on how it's designed. A form is basically going to ask you for information, right? You put in your information there, and you're going to send it to the database of that website. We also have forms that are used to search. Like if you go to, obviously, we all use Google, right? So you go to Google's website here. Now, a lot of people think that, let me actually ask you guys. Jenry, let me go to you. So it's not actually a question. It's like, I'm just thinking out loud. Jenry, what do you think about Google search? Is Google search is a what? Is it a website? Like right now, am I on a website?
Yeah, you're on the
or
web.
Am I on some kind of a?
It's like a search.
I'm on the web. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a search engine. It's a website that is designed mainly to search. So you guys are building all kinds of websites, right? We've looked at a lot of them before, but this particular website, the main purpose is just for you to search for stuff. Now, this, believe it or not, this is a form. What you see here is a form. Now, this form, you type in information to look for stuff. So, let's say we want to find, pizza, stores near me, right? Something like that. Pizza stores near me. All right? So, Jenny, what do you think? When we click pizza stores near me and we do the search, where do all this information that just pops out here? Where does all this come from?
It comes from the database.
From your database. Now look at what it says here. Look at how much information is there. How many is there? That's like
1,140 million.
Okay. So you think all that information is from their database, right?
Yes.
Well, you're right. It is from their database. And because of the size of the company, Google's database is like ginormous, right? Like extra, like seriously huge. Seriously huge, right? To be able to give us all this information here, in fact, in a database, you have more than just text. You can have pictures in a database, pictures, videos, all that kind of stuff. And then the output. So when you do the search, the way the results appear, that is the work of a web designer, right? You design it so that maybe the title looks like a link that points you, to the company's website or stuff like that. All this has to be designed, right? In fact, when you do a search here, right, and you see all these options, these are all web design. Web design programming. In fact, there's a program called Ajax that does stuff like this, right? Ajax, AJAX. We're not covering Ajax in this class, but Ajax is a program, if you continue in your web design career, you're going to come across so many other different programming languages besides just HTML. You're going to come across JavaScript. Without JavaScript, let me show you something in JavaScript here. So there's a JavaScript class, at Bfit that I have, just like you guys are in Web 1. JavaScript is the Web 2 class. So let me show you something here from one of your, maybe you might not know this person, but one of your colleagues here has done some assignments. So let me show you what kind of stuff that JavaScript does. Here is the latest assignment. Where is it? All right, look at this here. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
So this is like a quiz. I was built by this student here. His name is Datran. So now you can see that you have some form elements there, right? This is called a text box. So just like on the pizza page, you have text boxes, you have radio buttons, you have drop downs. On the Google form, you have first name, last name. You have this checkbox here, stuff like that. So that's how this was designed. So here's the text box, and here's a submit button. Now, this is of course the design is primarily HTML, right? You've got to know HTML, but the functionality of this website, of this quiz is all based on JavaScript. So if you're going to be real good as a web designer, after HTML, you got to absolutely know JavaScript. If you're going to get a job in the future, you're not going to get a job with just HTML. Like, oh, I know HTML. So what? What else do you know? HTML is a great skill to start. You don't end there. So let's look at what this assignment was about. Basically, it's like a multiple choice sort of you answer each question by typing the correct number, then you click submit. So let's try this. So right here, the sky is, well, obviously blue. So if we say, well, let's just say, oh, well, the sky is yellow. So we're going to put in 4. Marie, is Marie there right now? Because I couldn't hear Marie earlier.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, so yeah, so what you expect based on how this quiz is designed, if I put the wrong answer and I click submit, what do you expect to see?
I'm gonna guess there should be some kind of a pop-up that says incorrect.
That says incorrect. Now here, okay, so try again, incorrect, blah, blah, blah. All right, so we hit submit here and see what we see there. So this is how it's designed. It says it's wrong. It shows you like a, X image there says it's wrong. Now let's see what happens when you select the correct answer. You say, well, the sky should be blue, I guess, so submit, and it gives you a check mark. Now this functionality that you're seeing here, this is all JavaScript. It's designed basically with HTML because of all the tags and, all the words and the lines and stuff like that. It's all HTML. I mean, every website is basically made with HTML, just like the very basic code, but not just HTML, because HTML, you don't have what I'll call superpowers in HTML. You need programs, you need JavaScript, you need PHP, you need all kinds of other programs, Ajax, to combine with HTML to make your website really functional and dynamic. Okay, so right here, okay, now see what happens here if I try to answer the next question, or if I don't answer the question, I just click submit. Shakai, what do you notice there? When I just click submit here?
It says to type your answer.
So it prompts you to do something, right? A very good designed website or program has to, what we call, be user-friendly. It has to kind of talk to you, like, sorry, you got to type an answer there. You can't just leave it blank. So I say, okay, I'm going to just choose whatever answer 3. Well, yeah, that should be the correct answer. So let's see, submit. It says it's correct. Now, so I go all the way down to the bottom of this quiz and I say, well, I'm done. I just want to submit it. Shakai, what should happen if I click submit quiz? Now you see I've only answered 2 questions, right? And I hit submit.
It should tell you that you need to put in more answers.
Okay, so let's see how it was designed. So when I click submit, it says, please answer question C. The C question, you can see if I scroll up a little bit, you can see that I did answer question C. Now he knows I have answered question A and B, so he didn't say that. So that's what we teach in JavaScript, right? You have to design your program so that it makes sense in the real world, because all these things are, they work in the real world. All right, so it tells us to answer question C and D and E and go, answer everything. Okay, so let's just put in any answer there. Just going to say 3, submit. Well, that's wrong. Just going to put in any answer. It doesn't matter. Just put in 1 here. So these are all forms, right? This is a form. It's designed using forms, simple text boxes, and submit buttons. Okay, so I'm just putting random answers here. Doesn't matter. All right. So now I'm putting all this stuff here. Hangyu, when I hit submit, what do you think should happen? What should you see?
Maybe your grade.
Okay, to show you a grade, like what? What do you mean a grade?
Like a percentage for like 5 out of 10.
Okay, something like that, right? It will tell you how many you got right or how many you got wrong. Okay, so let's see what happened here, how Datran designed this. All right, so see the design here. So the design is the questions that are wrong, it says, sorry, correct answers are marked correct, wrong answers are wrong. See, all this is designed in JavaScript. It doesn't just happen. It was designed to look this way. If I just quickly show you the code, now it's not going to make sense to you, obviously, but let me show you anyway. So you can see right here that you have things like on line 8. We're not going to do JavaScript in this class. I'm just trying to, tell you guys what should be the next step. We're going to use a little JavaScript when we talk about, when we start building mobile-friendly websites, but you're not going to have to create that. I'm just going to give you some piece of code that's going to work. But this should be your next step after HTML if you want to be, like serious with this web design stuff. So right here you can see some things that, so it's on click. You see stuff like this, things that look a little bit different. These are all part of JavaScript. And you go all the way down and you're going to see, things like this, like functions and vars, variables, and if statements. If question A, right here it says, if question A is 2, then you show that image with the check mark if the answer is correct. If the answer is not correct, then you show the image with the X mark or the cross mark. So this is all JavaScript, right? So, yeah, go ahead.
What if you put like a 2 and then you put like double quotes and you type some random text?
You mean like in here?
Yeah, in there. And you hit like, what if you put like a double quote?
So type pizza. Oh,
yeah.
Like double quotes?
Yeah, at the end of it. No, and without the one in the front.
Check this out.
And then after the quotes, you like type something random.
Oh, so I do a quote, then I do A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that?
Yeah, what if you, I want to see what happens if you hit submit.
If I hit submit?
Oh.
Well, the way the program was designed, it's if your answer is not, like here should be, the answer should be 3, right? If it's not that, every other thing is wrong. Which kind of makes sense, Is that what you're trying to start the question?
I'm just seeing if you could put like code inside of it and if it would execute it, that's all.
Oh, well, yeah. So that's called trying to put code, to maybe mess up or get some kind of info. It's called something like Sql Injection. That's like a, pretty high level programming idea. But the idea is that hackers, can do some random code if your website is not built correctly, right? If it's not built with enough security, then people can mess up your website, can type all kinds of stuff there and crazy things that happen to your database. All right, so, but with this one here, no, it doesn't allow that. It just says your answer has to be 3 or every other thing is just wrong. So if we put the correct answer back in there, then it gives us a check mark. So when we submit quiz, you can see. So let's say if this is wrong, and now when we click submit quiz, it should update this output here, right? So submit, so you can see that question J is now wrong, and tells you there are 5 points. So if this answer, let's say this one here is also wrong, and now we update here, submit quiz. You can see now, so it updates. So this is all JavaScript functionality, but these are forms, all right? So that should be, generally, once you're done with HTML, then you do other programs. So that's what a that's what a form, that's the idea. So in this class, our whole job basically is to know how to design a form, not how to make it work. How to make it work, you got to be in the JavaScript class. But our job here is to know how to design the form. What are all the components of a form? What goes into, what are all the different buttons and stuff like that? Mary, what do you think of this JavaScript here? Is it something, one should know, or it's like, oh, I'm good with HTML?
I don't know. I'm on the fence. I might be good with HTML.
Oh, well.
It looks interesting. We'll see.
It is interesting. It is. There are so many things you can do with JavaScript to make your website really, really work. All right. Okay, so let's go to the code and let's see. Maybe we'll do something like, something similar to this here, or some kind of a school registration form, just to give you guys an idea of how we get this stuff done. Okay, so let's do what we do. I don't know, maybe I've got to increase this a little bit here. So let's make this like 20. All right, so JavaScript. HTML forms, follow the convention of, HTML. That we use tags when we do HTML forms, right? We use tags. So the very first tag, as you can imagine, will be the form tag, right? The form tag has a pair, like HTML, like HTML tags. The HTML tag, the head tag, the title tag, P tags, all that stuff, B tags. So the HTML form tags are very similar. That's the opening tag on line 7 and the closing tag on line 9. You absolutely have to have those tags when you start to build your form. Before you put all the other stuff in there, you absolutely have to have that in there. The HTML form tags don't really show you anything. Okay, so if I preview this, you're not going to see anything because we haven't added any form elements, right, to the thing. So you're not going to see anything. I'm just going to put let me just put a H2 tag here and say this is a, say class registration. Oh boy. All right, we're going to call that a class registration form. Say we need, for students to do that. Why is it in uppercase? All right. Just going to put a line there just for fancy stuff. Where's my line? Oh, HR. A HR line just to keep things interesting. All right. So now let's continue here. So I'm going to put a input. Now this tag you see on line 10, it's one of the most important tags in the form. It's what you call a text box. So if I preview this input, now the input tag is just a single tag, right? No pair. Single tag, no pair, just by itself. Right, just a single tag. It's one of the most important tags. If I preview it, you can see what it does here. You know what? Let me give a background here because, let me just put a background in this page so we can see what is happening there. Just put a background color. I'll just say light blue or something. Yeah. Okay, so that it's kind of better for you. You can see what's happening there. So that's your text box. Just you do that by creating your input tag, just a very simple tag, an input tag, and you see your text box here. Now in this text box, you can type anything. Numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can type special characters. You can type, words, whatever. Numbers, letters, anything you want to type in there, right? It's just a text box. When we say text, we mean literally every character on your keyboard is just regular text. It doesn't matter if they are numbers or letters or special characters. They're referred to as text, right? So a text box you can type anything, your name, your address, your phone number, and all that stuff. So that's your text box. Now, Stephen, question for you. So if you if you went to a website and you saw, class registration form, and you see just this text box, what are you going to put in there? What are you going to type in there?
Your name.
Your name? How do you know you're supposed to put your name there? Why not your address or your social security number?
Oh, I don't know.
Exactly. You don't know what to put in there. Nicholas, what are you going to type in there? Nicholas, are you there?
Wait, can you repeat the question, please?
What are you gonna type if you went to a website and it says class registration form and you see one text box? What are you gonna type in there?
I'm gonna type
Nicholas, are you there? What's going on?
I'm trying to think.
Okay, let's go to somebody else. Hassan, what are you gonna type in this box if it's just a blank box? Nothing, it doesn't give you much direction.
Yeah, class registration number, I think.
Okay, so we're all just guessing, right? Now, this is not completed. When you create a form, you should absolutely tell the user what exactly they should put in there. You should have what you call labels. Like back here with the Google page, you should have something that tells them put in your first name, last name, and stuff like that. So let's go here. So we should put some kind of label. So we say first name. Yeah, just say first name. You preview it, and now it says first name. Now you know, okay, my first name is supposed to go in that box. So you put it's called a label. You put a label next to all your form elements so that the user knows what exactly they're supposed to put in there. You don't want any guesswork, okay? Just like with the with the JavaScript quiz, right? Here, it tells you at the very top, answer each question by typing the correct number. You have to be user-friendly. User-friendly means you tell the user what to do or what to expect on a website. If a website is not user-friendly and it doesn't guide the user, then it's kind of useless. So you got to have some little, just like if I just type in information, if I just hit submit here, you got to tell the user, oh, you got to type an answer. Never assume that people just know what to do. Nobody knows what to do. You got to tell them, give some directions. So first name is going to go there. Okay. So you got first name, then you should have last name. So let's do last name. Put a, let's see, last name. Okay, let's use a p tag here to move this like to the next line. A p tag. All right. So first name, last name. Okay, now I've got a question for you guys. You know, we just looked at this example here, well, like a database example. Like you guys said correctly, all this information goes to a database. When that information is submitted on your website, it goes to some kind of a database that has rows and columns, and that information is going to go in there, right? And each column has, you know, like these are all the first names, the last names, the emails, phone, and blah, 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 right? So, question for you guys, Chakaya. Now look at what we've done so far, right? Let's get this comment out of the way. I just, you know, look at what we've done so far. We have first name, last name, and we have 2 text boxes, right? Now, let's say, Shakaya, we have a button here and say submit. Now, based on this code, what is the first name and what is the last name? Shakaya, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So you said you're asking what is the like
when this form is submitted, let's say it is submitted and that information is going to go to some database, right?
Yeah.
Based on our code, can we tell which information, which input is the first name, or which text box, should I say, is gonna be the first name and the last name?
Oh no, we can't tell.
You can't tell? But it says first name here and it says last name. So shouldn't it be this input here that's gonna be first name? Like line 10?
Well, I don't think it's gonna work because it's not labeled to go with the first name, I guess. I think it has to be labeled like how when you use div tags, you have like the ID. I think you need something like that.
Okay. Well, I like the way you're thinking. That's very that's absolutely brilliant. Brian, what do you think? Do you agree with Shakaya here? If you submit this form, go ahead.
I think after where it says first name, that input would be for the first name. And then after it says last name, that input would be for the last name.
So you're saying that line 10 is different from line 13? There's a difference between line 10 and 13?
I would assume so.
No, just look at it. I mean, look at the screen. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Is there a difference between line 10 and line 13?
The p tag?
Okay, let's get rid of the p tag. Okay, line 10 and line 13, these 2 input tags here. What's the difference?
Oh, there's no ID on them? So you can differentiate them?
Okay, so right now they're exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
So if we submit this form just with just these 2 text boxes, are we going to be able to tell which is supposed to be the first name and which is supposed to be the last name?
You won't be able to.
You won't be able to. So you guys have done enough programming to know that, like Shakaya said, there's got to be something else that goes in there. There's got to be something else. Benji, what do you think? Is there going to be something else there in that tag?
I think so. I think we have to give it like an ID if I have to take a guess.
Okay, so I like the way you guys are thinking. All right. So let's do what you guys just, the way you guys are thinking. Now, this input tags are completely useless right now. I mean, it looks like, that's the first name, and I can even type a first name here and say, this is John, and this is, John Moses or something, right? It looks like it's working, but it's not. To be perfectly in programming terms, this form is not working at all, because when you look at the code, your line 10 and line 13 are exactly alike. You have to give more instructions. You have to tell this form, you got to do some more stuff anyway. So let's go here. So here's what you do. You need some attributes in your input tags. Attributes. The first attribute we use is, these are like standard attributes that you use all the time. We have what we call type, and more importantly, we have what we call name. Type is like just generic. That's like text. In fact, in some places they tell you that you don't even need to do that, but yeah, that's basic. That's how we do that. Now, name is what you guys are referring to as the ID. You have to tell that tag what is the name of that tag so that the program can identify the tag on the page. Kind of like when you have your div tags and all that stuff, you have to identify each tag with an ID if you want it to be functional. So with a text box, you have to programmatically name the text box. So what name should we give this text box on line 10? Benson.
Probably something like first name.
Exactly. Now, it's very important that you remember we talked about databases. All that information is going to go to the database. So if you're building a form on a website, you certainly maybe you created the database yourself, or you're working with a team of other people, and there are people who manage the database. Whatever happens, you have to know in your database, what is the name of that column? Like here we have first name, right? All that information, all the first names are going to go in this column. So we got to use first name because the database needs to know that. Now, when you type a name, you don't have any spaces at all in the name, because you probably would think this should be first name. No. Just like an ID for a div tag, there should absolutely be no spaces there. All right, so first name. In fact, in the database, it should be identical and say first name. Right? Programming is something we also teach here at the school. That's called I forgot the name of the course. It's like web design management. That's the name of the course. So you do Web 1, Web 2, and that's kind of like Web 3, web design management. We teach SQL. You guys mentioned SQL. We teach SQL in that class, PHP, and things that help you manage a website on a very high level. All right? So you give it a name here. The name here is the name of, kind of like the name of the type of information you are collecting, right? This box, this text box here, right? You have to name it with the type of information you are requesting from the user or the customer. Same thing here. Now, when you do all this stuff, it doesn't change the text box appearance. It just looks exactly the same. But if you want it to work programmatically, like when you submit it, it does all that work, you have to do all this, right? So you got to give it a name. So the type is like generic. You got to give it a name of what kind of information you're collecting. Same thing here. So say it again. Did somebody say something? Okay, let's go on. So for the second one on line 13, that should be last name. Now you can write these names anyhow. I mean, you don't have to say. For example, here you can just. Some people just say LN, right, or last, whatever. That's totally up to you. But of course, I like to give it a name that is properly descriptive. But whatever you type in here is totally up to you, as long as you know what you're doing and it works with your database. Just like when you're designing your layouts for your website, whatever names you give your IDs, that's totally up to you. Whatever you want. But if they're very clear descriptions, then it's easier to work with. So right now, this form is looking more like what it should look like. Your input, your text boxes here have names, and that's going to be helpful when you work with databases. All right. So we have two. So right now it says your information goes here, first name, last name, and this is how we program the form elements, the text box for starters. All right, well, let's move on. So we want to ask for your first name, your last name. Let's say we want your what? Let's say something like choose birthday. Okay, birthday. So birthday. Just keep that short and say that's DOB. All right, so same thing. I'm just going to copy and paste here. I like to do a lot of typing. Just going to paste that there. So DOB. Now you're going to change this here to, you can just say DOB, date of birth. Just the same thing, right? So first name, last name, date of birth. Now with the date of birth, or with any date, we're not going to do all this here because you can't do that in HTML. But when you talk about should I say a kind of a date, there's so many ways to write a date. It's going to be very confusing. Like so many ways to write a date. Okay, so most times when you have a kind of a date question, you always have a little calendar here that you can click on to select the date, because the dates have to be in a particular format. Most people are not going to know what the exact format is that you're looking for. If you're trying to write today's date, are you going to write 3-29-21? Is that how you want it to be? Or are you going to say 3/29/2020? How exactly is it going to be? Or you're going to say it's March, 29, 20. It's like very confusing. So with programming in a form, you always, need to create extra functionality so that people know, they can just select something, click here or click on this calendar. I think I have I don't know if I can find it right now. I have something like that. What's it called now? Let's see. Form. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I found it. All right. So we use this in JavaScript class as an example. I didn't know I was going to find it so easily. Okay. So here's an example, right, of a form we're using JavaScript class. You can see that this form, if you try to hit submit, it's going to prompt you Now it looks like a form for an actual hospital. Well, we'll just use it for an example. There's no hospital. Well, I don't know of any hospital called Brilliant Health Clinic. And if you see here, it's from media15live.com. So we did it ourselves. So if you hit submit here, it's going to ask you all this bunch of questions. But here's the point I'm trying to make. So when you go to date of birth here, and you try to type. Now, if you try to type, you might type the wrong thing. You're not sure how to type it. And there's going to be errors in your database. So it's always better to have something like this where the user can click, and if it's today's date or they want to choose their birth date or something, they can always kind of like go back or, use whatever you have there in the functionality. Say my birthday is way back in, who knows, whenever the birthday was, right? You just keep going back until you get to the date that you're trying to select. 1997 or something, and here's my birthday, for example, right? So if you design it that way, then it's easier. You don't have to worry about, the user making mistakes. Okay, so, but all that functionality is beyond HTML, but just thought I'd mention that. Okay, but we're just going to put date of birth there, and people can, just as an example, you can just say, whatever, 1997, something like that, right? Okay, let's keep going. So date of birth. Now let's say we want to do, what else? We want to do, say we want you, choose a PIN number, right? You want to give you a PIN number. So choose a 4-digit PIN, something like that. All right, so let's put this there again, copy, and we'll call this PIN. All right, so I want you to choose a PIN. So far you can put in your name here, say, this is Marie, last name is Johnson, date of birth is 1/2/1995, choose a PIN, 3345. Now here's a question for you guys. Let me see if you guys are, following me here. I think you guys are. Divine, are you there?
Yeah.
All right, you following us so far?
Yeah.
Okay, now tell me what's wrong with this here. Now, generally, when you use an online form and you're trying to create a PIN, does it show like the actual PIN numbers? Like, is it visible, or is it like bullet points? Like bullets.
Yeah, it's usually not visible.
It kind of hides it, right?
Yeah, sometimes it is. It's like visible at first, and then it becomes a bullet point. So it depends.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, how about? Here's another thing. Now, with these text boxes, there's no limit to what you can type there. I mean, you can just keep typing. Just keep typing forever, right? Just whatever you type, just keep going. You can type from now till midnight, and you just keep typing everything in there. That's how these text boxes are, right? You can type anything. Now, think about this. We're asking this user for a 4-digit PIN, but we can actually type more than 4 digits here. So, Divine, what do you think is the best thing to probably do if we want to make sure that you only type 4 and not more than 4 digits?
Through the coding, we have to like specify that we only 4 number can go. Okay,
so that's what we want to do now. So you have a lot of options that you can use for your text boxes. Attributes. So here's an attribute for you guys. You can use it with any of your text boxes. So we're going to call this is called max length. No, LENG GTH, exactly. Max length stands for, let me just show you, you can try it yourself, 4. All right, now put that in your code and see what happens. When you do max length equals 4, let's see. Can you type more than 4, Divine? Did you try it? Did anybody try it?
Yeah, no, you can't type more than 4.
I tried it. You can't do it. Yeah.
Can you also
Yeah.
limit it to just be digits as opposed to letters?
Okay, so that's a good thought. In fact, that would be the perfect scenario, right? That's why I'm saying to you, Marie, you got to do JavaScript. See now? See what I'm saying? So you can restrict the user and say, you've got to have this number or only numbers, only text, blah, 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 blah. Actually, HTML has some of that functionality. If you go to W3 Schools, the website, W3 Schools, they have the types, besides JavaScript now, HTML has types that are more specific, like phone number, email, things like that. But when I teach, I just try to give you the default text. But if you go and do some extra research on W3 Schools, you guys know W3 Schools, right? Every web designer should know W3 Schools. If you go to W3 Schools and look at their forms, that it's going to tell you more of those options. But because of time, I can't do all that. So I just give you the generic type here, but you can be more specific. But the actual functionality, things like JavaScript will do that for you beyond just HTML trying to, but HTML is pretty good in some of those areas because it's actually, we call it HTML5. HTML5 is like the latest HTML, should I say, update. Believe it or not, HTML gets updated every once in like 20 years. So there was HTML4, the HTML5. It's not very regular, but when you go to W3 Schools, it's a fantastic place to find out the latest in coding. Okay, so we just give you here, just some basic tools. But if you want to take this web design thing seriously, then you got to be sure that you're using, all the extra tools that are available, even just in HTML, besides other languages. All right. So, Marie, like what you said, you have some of those options for type, maybe like a phone number or things like that. All right. But I'm not going to go into that now.
Okay.
So we're going to restrict it to just 4. And if you put max length, it's going to just allow you type 4 digits, 4 digits, not more, not less. You can keep banging away on your keyboard. It's not going to change, right? That's coding for you. Now, how about if you want the box to be smaller? Let's say, well, it's only 4 digits. Why do we need this very, wide box here? So we can also do that. So you can do size. Now, the default size, I think the default size, if we look at the first name, is 25 characters. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let me start again. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, well, it's like 16 or 17 characters. That's the default size. You can put in as many as 16 or 17 characters, all right? But if you want, you can increase that or reduce that, right? Like you want to make it wider or, narrower, is that the word? So size, we want to say 5, for example. Let's see what happens. So say 5 for the size. And now you see that's reduced the size of that because we only need 4 characters there. So if you put in your 1, 2, 3, in fact, you can even make it a bit smaller, but you don't want to make it too small. You're going to frustrate people because it's too tiny. But I guess if we say 4 should be okay. So you choose a pin, 9012. Yeah, that's okay. Right. Actually, I don't know if it can be any smaller than that. If I make it 1, let me just try 1. I don't think it can be smaller than that. So that's like the let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, so yeah, it can't really be like just for a single character, So I think it's better to do like 4, something like that. And then you can choose your pin. So choose your pin, 4 characters. All right, so let's move on. Let's just say, okay, well, you can see your pin because you're trying to create the whole thing, but your pin is a security information, secure information. So we don't want it to be so obvious, but we'll come back to that later. So first name, last name, date of birth. What else do you collect on a registration form? Like what? Okay, we want to say your gender, right? So let's go for that. So here we added some new options. So we're gonna use radio buttons, right? Radio buttons is when you have to choose one answer. So we're gonna just say, just a simple gender, MF, male, female, and then allow you to choose one. So we'll see how radio buttons work. And then checkboxes, all right? So let's go here, and we'll say gender. I mean, there's so many ways to design forms. I'm just giving you like basic tools here. People can design forms in so many different ways now. All right, so, but now this is going to be slightly different from what we've done so far. So this is input here. The type is going to be different. The type is radio. Radio. So we've had input type text because that's for typing text. Now the type is radio. So let's see what happens when you preview that. You see this little, you guys should see like a little button there on your page.
I see it.
Let's put a P tag here to move this down. All right, so you can see the radio button there. So the way we should do this is, so we need 2 buttons, right? So we need let's see, let's do female here. Oh, let's just do F, right? Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Female. I'm just gonna copy this here, paste. All right, let's see what that looks like. Excuse me. All right, so you can choose. Okay, now notice something. Hangyu. When you what's the word now? When we have it designed this way, well, you should only allow one selection. Hangyu, are you there?
Yep.
So we're not done with this design here, right? Because based on our form design, you got to be male or female, right? Not male and female. Just like a multiple choice question. You can't have 4 answers. It's got to be one. So based on this design, we want you to choose one or the other. Okay, so when you lay out your input type, you need to add a couple more things here. So you have to add name. So name there is going to be the same name, like we're going to call this gender. Same thing with this one here. What's that name? It's gender. There's got to be something else that we add, because if you check it out, it's okay. Well, now it's changing, but then we still got to change something, and now it's allowing, either or, but we still got to change something, because let me go back to you, Hangyu. If you look at this code for, the first one and the second one, they're exactly the same. So you can't tell, well, did the user select female or male? Because your input types are exactly the same. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So here we need to add something called value. And then we got to add it here too. That is what makes the difference between those. Even if you can have 2 options or 3 options or 4, it doesn't matter how many options you have. as long as they're all radio buttons, you have to be able to differentiate each selection, right? So if we had a multiple choice where you had 4 questions, you can only select one question, the right answer, okay? So you need to, each answer, A, B, C, or D, needs to have a different value. So the name is the same for both radio buttons because it's all about gender, but the value, that is what the user selects, right? So here we can just say F here and M here. It's not going to change in the design, but in terms of programming, right, this is how to do it. You have to label, you have to give every single option a different value. So right here we have just 2 options. If you have 3 options or 4 or whatever, select 1. So that's how you do that for it to be if you work in a company or at the office and this is your job, you got to know how to do this stuff correctly, right? Because the database guys and the other people in your web design team need you to design your form the way it should be designed correctly, so that when they publish it on the website, it works. All right, so this is serious business, guys. If you're going to do this stuff for real, you got to know all this, what to do and how to do it correctly. All right, so we have first name, last name, date of birth. We have the pin. Now we allow you to select female here or male. Let's keep going. Let's say now we want you to what? What else do we need here? Say, how about online, in person, hybrid, stuff like that, right? So we say, what's that going to be called? Let's put a P tag and we say class. What's it called? Is it class format? It's called? I don't know. So we're going to call that input. Now the input, the type here is different. Now this is your checkbox. Oh, checkbox. Checkbox. The checkbox or checkboxes are different. They're not the same as your radios. Your radios are round and only allow one option out of many. Well, let's do some more of the checkbox. So we want to say choose your class format. Now we're going to call this. We'll say this is online. No. This is not correct because we can't do that. We only want you to choose one. Choose multiple rather. So we say in the classes. Or should we say courses? How about that? Courses, yeah. Courses or subjects. All right. So we'll say what? What are the courses? Math. So that's math there. Then copy this. Just do it 3 times. So we're going to say math. We're going to do HTML. And we're going to say English 101, something like that. Okay. Now, if you see, so with the radio buttons, with the with your check boxes, let's even add one more. We'll say this is what kind of courses do you guys have? Biology?
Yeah.
Hello, is anybody there?
Yeah.
You guys gotta help me out. I'm struggling here. What are the different courses you guys
Physics
take? Biology
class.
is one, right?
History class.
Okay, well, four is enough. Okay, so we have 4 there. So we with check boxes, you're allowed to select multiple. So you want to do math, you want to do HTML and biology, for example. All right. So with radio buttons, it's one or the other. If you have 2 options or 3 options or 4 with your radio buttons, you got to choose one. With your checkboxes, you can have multiple, right? You can have 1 or 2 or 3, or you can select as many as you want. Okay, that's how checkboxes are designed. Okay. Now we have to do the same thing we did here for the radio buttons. Each option has to have a different value. That's how you know what the user selected. So you got to do the value in there. So value is math, value here is HTML. The value here is English 101. And right here is biology. Are you guys getting this? Are you guys able to type along, or am I going like crazy fast or something?
No, I can follow.
Shikai, are you following this?
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are like super quiet, so I assume you guys are like just typing and, you know, okay, so I'll kind of believe that. All right, so we have our checkboxes there, and you can now. So Shakai, have you ever been to a website where, you know, somehow the checkbox was already checked before you even checked it? It's like it checked it for you. Says, send me your newsletter or something like that. Have you seen that kind of checkbox?
No, I haven't seen that before.
Say it again?
I haven't seen that before.
Oh, you haven't seen, like, you know, when you want to submit the form and it says, you know, send me your, well, anyway, if you haven't. So what we're going to do, okay, it's like, you know, when we went to this Google what is it, the Google form. Where is it? Where'd you go? I thought I had it open. Oh. All right, so, well, not in this case, but sometimes you see a checkbox that's already checked. Well, let's look at it. Let's see how we do that. So let's say that at our school, we want, you know, now you don't have to do math, but we want to encourage all students to do math. You know, like we want to kind of help you choose math, right? Hassan, if we want to help every student choose math without, you know, kind of like by default, what do you think we should do here?
For math?
Yeah, what should we do with the math?
Click select math.
All right, so it should be like pre-selected. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
So let's try to do that. So let's go in here, and we want to help. You know, we want to kind of encourage all students to choose math. So we're gonna go in there and say, you're just gonna type a single attribute value called checked. That's all.
Right.
Just say checked. It's not
Sure.
part of, actually, you know what, maybe to you know, to be less confusing, you can put it at the end. Just say checked. And if you preview, it's going to be checked by default. So just say checked. That's all you type in there. So if you type checked, then it gets checked. Now, of course, you can uncheck it yourself. You can certainly uncheck it. But, you know, we are kind of, you know, we're hoping that, you know, all students, when they're selecting their courses, will just select math. So if you don't deselect it, or if you don't uncheck it, right, then you're going to be automatically enrolled in math. So do they do that at BFIT? I don't think so, right?
I don't remember.
Anyway, so now you know, if you're, Marie, when you're designing that website, now you know what to do, right?
Yes.
you can make them, you know, a little trick.
Make
I
everybody.
have
So-
a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for the radio, how do you uncheck it? Like let's say you click mail, right? How do you unclick mail and just have nothing there? Like,
Well, you have to. Well, what do you mean? How do you unclick it? I mean, if
Like,
you're, let's say, you select male and you're like, oh, I made a mistake. It's female.
I
Is that
know,
what you
but
mean?
just,
It's just-
no, just like you don't have anything for it.
You can't. Well, how do I say that? You can have a button here. There's a button here. I'm going to show us in a little bit. That's going to clear everything you've done. But actually, that's a good question. You know, I never thought about it because you know once you select now before you select. So when you go to the page for the first time, nothing is selected, right? But once you select something, even if you made a mistake, you got to select the other one. But there's no way to like clear both options. So if you have 3 options or 4, whatever. But there's a button we can put at the bottom here to maybe do that. But it's not the best option. But you know, here, but that's just how radio buttons are. One of it is always checked. So if you made a mistake, just select the other one or like multiple choice, right? You select one answer, or you think, oh no, that's not the correct answer. Then you select another one or the other one. One has to be selected. So there's no way to keep everything blank. But like I said, I can show you that that submit button. But it's not the best option. I'll show you why anyway. But with checkboxes, you can always check and uncheck, check and uncheck. That's just how they are. All right. Okay, let's keep going so we can wrap this up and then look at what you guys did last week. All right. So what else do we want to collect here? So how about password? We want to create your password, right? So let's do password. So create password. All right. So I'm just going to copy one of this here again because I don't like to type all the time. And now this is password. All right. So create password. Input type is text. And the name is password. So when you preview that, and your password is Jack the Reaper 25, and you have Reaper 25 or 25. That's your password. Now, Marie, is something wrong with our password there that we just typed?
Yeah, you shouldn't see it because people watching your.
You shouldn't see it, right?
Yeah.
It looks weird. Like, why are we seeing your password? You know, you should never see the password. That is like totally not allowed. So what do we do? Who knows what we do to that? Anybody? Anybody knows what we do? Come on, guys, give it a try. What do we do?
You turn off the stream so no one can see it, and then you submit the form and you turn back on the stream.
What? Say that again?
Like, if you don't want anybody to see it, you just turn off the, you stop sharing your screen, and then you put in your password, and then you submit the form, and then you turn back.
Oh, you mean like for me?
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
like you're gonna publish this website this form on the website. So whenever user is gonna create their password, they're gonna turn off their screen or something. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, or you could use your hand to like cover the screen so no one can see it behind you. Something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's like your perfect solution?
Or you could turn the brightness all the way down so they have to like really squint in order to see it.
I don't believe you guys. Okay, so when you go to create a Gmail account, and I create my password here, right? Am I going to use my hands to cover this? How do we do this here? Like Divine said, how do we mask the password? besides using your hands and turning the brightness low or stop sharing your screen? Anybody?
The dots.
Yeah, somehow you got to tell it to swap in
Yeah.
dots for text.
Yeah. Yeah, so how do we do that? That's the question. You guys are just telling me the question over again. What do we do? Okay, you guys have given up, right? Like, we have no idea. All right, you're gonna change it from text to password. That's it. So what happened when you did that? Did you try it out?
Yeah, it gives you dots instead.
All right. So you use input type is password, not text. And now when you do your password, this is how it's supposed to be. So all this stuff you see here, you have to program it. It doesn't happen automatically. Somebody has to design that form. Same thing with this Google form here, this Gmail account. Somebody has to design it. So there's a lot of work to do in web design, guys. People get paid to do all this stuff here. It's not just, magic. Somebody has to design it the way it is. So that's how you do the password. And of course you can do the confirm password. It's just kind of like the same thing, confirm password. Confirm, same thing. Now but of course, you got to use a different name. So here you can say confirm password there. So when you look at it, you put your password there, you confirm. You guys see that all the time. That's how we do that.
Guess you need JavaScript to actually have it match, though, right?
Yes, absolutely. So you see, I'm trying to practice my marketing skills by telling you guys, go sign up for JavaScript next semester or something. Yeah, because without JavaScript, your forms are going to be, they're not going to do it. You can't really do a lot of stuff with them. And like I showed you here, right, you need JavaScript to make it work. So here, let's say you select the patient is a new patient. Select the gender. Gender is also there. You select that. It's talking, like the form is set up to, help you out here. So let's say you put in some information there and all that stuff. You submit, it says select the department you want to visit. So right now you haven't selected a department. Do you want to go to family medicine? Is it a dental visit? Whatever it is, right? So JavaScript does all that. Okay. Okay, let's go back here. So let's add a couple more things here and we can wrap this up for now. Let's say we want you to select, like the format for your classes. How about that? So we say right here, class format. All right, now, so here's a new thing. Here's a new one, just like this example here, where you have the drop down. So you can use, so instead of radio buttons all the time, you can use a drop down where the user only selects one option. So radio buttons do the job, but if you have a lot of options, you don't want to have like too many radio buttons on your form. That's not going to make sense. So like right here, like when you go to fill out your state, like on a government website or something, enter your state, see all the states in the country are listed, right? So let's look at that. That's called a select drop-down menu. So here's how we do that. So you got to use the word select, and then you close out the select. Now, when you use select right there, it's just going to show you like something like this. There's really nothing inside yet because you're not done. So you have to, let's finish it up. This one has a bit more code. So here you got to put in option, value, and this has opening and closing tags here. So something like this. So here you say online. Now when you do that and then you type online here, the attribute is for your program. When you do the database, you put that name here. So if you preview this part here, just one line of one, you have one option so far, and you see you have one option there, right? Online. So you can add more. I'm just going to copy and paste this right here. So let's say online. Let's say hybrid. Now you have two options. You see that? Hybrid or online, two options. Let's add another option here. Let's say, what's it called? Like in person? Is that what it's called? I don't know. In person. No, that's not called in person, right? What's that called? Like when you're in class only, that's the only option. What do you call that?
In person.
Wake up.
Yeah, I think it's called in person.
Okay, in person.
I
All right.
I think online would be called like remote.
No, online is called online. Online is called online. You see, the word remote is thanks to COVID-19. There's really no, that word didn't exist before COVID-19. So remote with COVID-19, remote means you're quote unquote in person, but you're online, So it's online, in person, hybrid. Hybrid is, well, I want to mix it up. So something like that. Anyway. So now you have three options here. So you can select your class format, hybrid, in person, or online, right? So that's your select drop-down menu. So it's kind of like your radio buttons only allows you to, now you can have a lot. I mean, you can have as many as you want, right? I mean, you can have so many of it, but here we only have three. So let's say you had a like the pizza form here. You can have several, like the sauce here, like as many as you want. There is no limit to how many options you can have, right? Like literally no limit. I'm serious about that. Let me show you what I mean. Here, I'm just going to keep copying here. I'm just going to copy everything here. There is no limit to how many you can have. I'm doing a lot of copy and paste. You can see that I have like a gazillion lines there. So if I preview it, look at that. There's no limit to how many you can have. It depends on the size of your screen, right? But you're just going to scroll up and down, up and down. There's no limit. So you can have all the countries in the world, all the states in the country, all the towns in your state, whatever, So that's how the select works. But you can only select one option. So just that example there, just to illustrate the fact that you can have as many options as you need to have. But now we have just three. All right.
How can you change the size of it? Would it just be the same thing with like the length?
So the size, well, I think next week we're going to do some more work on the form because there's a lot of work that needs to go there. You're going to use you're going to use CSS, right? You're going to use CSS to do that. So we haven't used any CSS here at all, but just like regular HTML tags, you can use CSS, right? So let's get through the buttons, and if we have time, we'll do some CSS here, or we can just do that next week. Or you can do that as part of the assignment. But let's do the buttons here. So the last part, let's see. So we're gonna say that's also an input. What am I doing? Let me copy this line here, put it here. Actually, let me just type that. Input type. So this is the button now. The input type for button is, you have a few, but here, let's put submit. Yeah.
You're
Input
above
type
the, you're above the select close.
Oh. Yeah, I want to see if you guys are paying attention. Obviously you are, right? Okay. So input type submit. And that's just going to give you a button here, right? Now, depending on your browser, I think you might just see that button says submit query. Does anybody see submit query?
Yeah. Yes.
I see submit only.
Okay, so it depends on your browser, or depends on your. If you're on a Mac, it might be different. But by default, if all you type is input type submit, it's always going to say, on the Windows anyway, submit query. So here we're going to add value to say what we want it to say. So here we're going to say, we can say, log in, or we can say just submit, submit. So whatever you put in the value is going to be there. Or, you can be a bit more fancy and say, go, and it's going to say go. But if you saw go on a button, you probably think it's weird, like, what is go? But if you want to be fancy a little bit and upset your boss, like, what is that? So just keep it simple, no need to be fancy. Submit should be fine. And that's what it says there.
I've never seen a submit button say go. I've never seen it before.
Well, now you can do it if you want. Or, you can be even more fancy and say, do something like this. Say, you can put a smiley face there if you want. Smile and submit.
It's just go doesn't sound very user friendly. It sounds kind of aggressive.
Exactly. But how about smile and submit? That would be like the worst, right?
Very
Maybe
friendly.
you see that on Sesame Street or something. Anyway. But whatever you put in the value is going to be there. But, just keep it simple. Submit. Okay. All right, one more thing I think which might be useful. So see how you asked the question about how can you, deal with this form. There's a button which I don't really recommend anymore, but since you asked, let me just show you what it is. So it's also a button, but this time instead of input type submit, it's called input type reset. And then here you just type reset. So see what happens when you put that reset button there. Put all your information, reset. So put information here. Just type, So just put information here, and then see what happens when let's just say date of birth, just any date here. Female, choose some classes, password, blah, 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 blah. Just say in person. Now, what happens when you click the reset button? Did anybody notice?
It goes back to the original.
It clears everything off, right? It clears the whole form. It clears all the information away, like reset. You see that? So when you click the reset button, everything goes back to how it was originally. Now, is that a good option or not? What do you guys think?
I don't think so.
I think it is in case you make a mistake.
But it wipes out everything you did. If you just made a mistake in one field, it wipes out everything you filled in.
Yeah.
True.
You know, some of these forms, right? You spend like a lot of time getting all your information together, right? And then you just hit reset and it's like you're going to be mad.
Well, maybe if you move the reset button further away from the submit button so don't accidentally hit it.
Well, it's not very common anymore. It's there. I mean, it's something. It's part of a form, but it's not highly recommended. That's why we have things like where's that form? We have things like JavaScript, so that while you're going through your form, every line it tells you what to do. Every line it tells you what to do, right? So your reset button is not a great idea at all. It's not a great idea. But I just thought I would mention it to you guys because you asked, but it's not a great idea. And, you know, the feedback from users, you know, it can be very frustrating. Okay, let's add a couple more things here that you guys might find interesting. So now some of the stuff we did here on this form is with JavaScript, but HTML has some kind of pretend behavior. Let me just say that way. So let's say absolutely on this form, you have to put in your first name. Let's just say that, okay? So go all the way up to the first name and enter something here like required. Put in the word required, just a single word there, required. And now what happens when you submit your form? When you try to hit submit, what happens? Do you see this?
Or it tells you to fill it out.
Say that again?
Oh, it tells you to fill out the bag.
Exactly. So that is part of HTML's functionality, but you know, it's pretty basic anyway. So you're free to use it if you want to require a field. If you don't fill that field out, you can never submit the form. So, you know, maybe you find that pretty useful. So, but once you do that, then the form can, you know, it can move forward. So when you use the word required, something else, let's say, like date of birth, you can do something here, like go into the date of birth line and say placeholder equals something like this. Or we don't even have to type for, just type something like so you can add that to any of your tags, but just try that with the date of birth. Just say placeholder equals something like this. When you preview it, where is it here? All right, so you can see what it says. You see what it says here? Right here, you can see that the placeholder you put in there, it basically tells the user, you know, but when you start typing in that box, see, you start typing, let's say you put in, then that placeholder goes away. So it's a placeholder. If you take out what you're typing, it comes back in there automatically. But when you start typing, the placeholder goes away. That's all. HTML has some added functionality, but you know, most people who do websites just go with JavaScript. But the placeholder actually is a great idea. Like, it's right here on this Google. You can see once you start type, well, there's Google's design is a little bit different, but generally that's the whole idea. But theirs is a little bit different from how what I just showed you here. It kind of moves away, some added styling and stuff like that. Okay. But the way it is, once you start typing, then that information goes away. But it's a kind of a guide. It helps the user maybe to know how to type. So you got to put in the month, the date, 2 digits, or something like that. So you might find it useful or helpful. Okay. Also, like with the first name, sometimes you might decide maybe you don't have a lot of space for the form on your website. You don't have space for first name and then the text box to the right. You can decide to do something like this. Like, let me just make another one here, just to give what I mean, show what I mean. So here you can just have this line here, and then you have a placeholder. And the placeholder just says enter first name. So you can use that option and then get rid of this option here. Let's see what it looks like. So something like that. You wouldn't need to have a label here. You just have enter your first name, enter your last name, something like that. So if you wanted to go with that option, it's a way to kind of like save space on your website if you had a space issue. Yeah, so if you were doing that, if that was your design or your style, then you wouldn't need the labels. You would just say enter first name. Then when you start typing your name, the placeholder goes away temporarily or permanently. Actually, temporarily, because if you take out the first name, then it comes back there. So it might be a good way to save space if you want to go with that, with that option, something like that, right? Greg Weeks. So that's one. So we didn't do a lot of should I say CSS styling here? Excuse me, because we kind of ran out of time. But just to show you what you can do with CSS, you can do inline styles, or you can just do a style sheet here. So it works in the same way. If you want to style something for the input tags, excuse me, and you say, well, you want all input tags to have a background color, right? You want the input tags, the inputs, the text boxes to have a background color of, I don't know, of pink. Let's see if that works. Then it's going to be like that, right? It's going to be pink. If that's how you're designing, like it's kind of like this pizza thing right here. All right. If that's what you're trying to do, you want all the text boxes to be pink, right? Or or yellow, some other color. Right? If that's what you're trying to do, then that's how it's going to be. So that's CSS, right? If you want to, okay, right now, if I type last name here, Franks, it's just by default, it's black text. But if I want to change the color of the text, then I'm going to say right here, so it's going to be all background yellow, and the color of the text is going to be red for some reason. I'm just trying to show you examples. So you're going to say, we want the text to be red. When you go here, you're going to see that every time you type now, it's all going to be red. Whatever you type there, even the date, the placeholder, everything becomes red. If you decide, well, I don't want the borders to be there, so no border, border 0. You see that your form is now borderless, sort of, right? It's sort of borderless. Or you can create your own custom borders. Like you can say, you want it to be, you want to have the radius, so border radius, say 9 pixels for the radius, right? The curvy edges. So you can see right here, you have your, now you notice that it's also affecting the buttons at the bottom because they are also input tags. So you might want to design your buttons differently, you know, maybe with a different ID, okay? A different ID. But, you know, you can have the curvy edges here like what we just did. If that's what you're trying to do with your design, you can decide to include maybe a color on the border. So you want to say 1 pixel PX solid, solid what? Solid, I don't know, gray around the edges. So you can see that the gray is around the edges. All right, right here. So I mean, you can literally do any design, you know, any CSS design you want. Now for this buttons here, you have to, let's just do that quickly, right? We can do a different ID for the buttons. So right here we can just say ID. Let's see if we can do that. ID. Let's say button style, something like that, right? For the buttons. Let's see if that works. That should work. All right, so we create a different ID for the buttons because we want to create a different look, right? So let's do $, and then here we'll give it a different background color. Let's say it's going to be, I don't know, red for the background color. Let's see if that works. Yep, that works. And now we're going to change a few things there. So we might want to take out the, maybe you don't want any border radius, or you want to have a different border radius. So let's just say border radius is 4. And maybe the text, the color of the text is what? White. All right, so the text color there is white, so you can see that. Maybe you want to take out the border around it. So you have a lot of, but you see, it works like a button. It works the same way, right? If we do the reset, you're gonna see it's gonna take everything out. If you do the reset, so the buttons work. It just depends on how you want it to look like, right? It's just the look of it. You have a lot of you know, a lot of options with CSS on how your buttons look, but you want them to look like, you know, modern day buttons. Like on the Google page here, you can decide to just give it the curvy edges, right? Or just a little bit of a curvy edge. Or you can even do the hover effect, right? You can do the hover effect if you want. The same way you do hover effects for links and stuff like that. Just the same way, you know, for navigation links. Works in the same way. Nothing different because it's all HTML. All right, so you can leave the borders there or take them out. You know, you have a lot of options, and even with the size, right? With the size, the width or the height. The width, if you want all the inputs, for example, to be maybe I don't know, HEIGHT. You want them to be, I don't know, 100 pixels. That's going to be too much, but let's just see. Oh, wow. Well, that doesn't look too good. That's too much, right? So, say maybe 35, something like that. Yeah, you want them to be a bit bigger, maybe even longer or shorter, right? But of course, your whole design has to. In fact, something else you guys are going to work on this week, part of your assignment, to help you learn, is how to format this form correctly, like the layout. Usually, we use what we call HTML tables, right? We use tables when we do the layout. We haven't used any tables here, but if I was to use a table, I'm just going to do this. You can always watch this recording later. I'm going to do this in 10 seconds, just to show you quickly. So a HTML table, you have it as part of your assignment. I'll give you some resources for that. But a HTML table basically looks like this, something like this: TD, TR. All right, so BOR. All right, so a table, let me put a HR tag here. So that kind of looks like this here. What I just did here, if you see the bottom of this page, just right here, the very bottom of this page, there's a little table here, which doesn't really show much right now, but if I did this for you, right here is where the information goes. So I'm just going to say 1, and right here, we're out of time now. 2, just to show you guys this quickly. And now it looks like this, right? Like a table. So my table information, I can go here and put some information here, and just to organize my form. So if I go back to my form and I grab my password, for example, I grab the last name, and I put the last name here, right? And I grab the input right here, and I place that here, right? This is your HTML table. It helps to organize your form. So you can see at the bottom here, right? It keeps everything well organized. So if I have a few different lines, like here, let's just say right here, something like that. I'm going pretty fast because I want to wrap this up. We're out of time. So you can see that it's going to keep your stuff organized, right? The first one will have the first name here, change all the information as you should. But then it's going to keep your form organized, right? Like the layout is going to be better than what we have right now. Because right now, it's just everything just floating all over the place. There's no control. There's no order. But when you use the HTML table, right, it keeps everything organized, and then I can remove the border when I'm done, make this 0, right? And then you can see that it's not going to show. It's not going to show the border around the table. All right, so it's a better approach. So part of your assignment, you're going to have some of those resources to be able to organize your form in a way that makes sense. Okay. I'm going to stop the recording now. We're out of time. So we can do the attendance and you guys can be out of here.